Joe Leigh here for Seconds Out with Craig the Spider Richards, the British light heavyweight champion who will be fighting for his first world title on May the 1st. Signed, sealed, not yet delivered. How are you feeling, Craig, ahead of the biggest fight of your career so far?
I feel good, I've been working very hard, training hard, not leaving those stones unturned. So yeah, I'm good, ready to go. It's the world title, isn't it? It's the pinnacle of the career. Sometimes in the other fights, I know that I never cut corners, but I know I train hard and I know I have enough to deliver. This one, you go over things with a fine-tooth comb and just making sure you prepare properly and you know what tasks you have in front of you.
This one's sort of a two-part question then, because going into the fight, you will be the underdog. Why will that motivate you, and why has that motivated you so far?
You see it in every fight when I'm underdog. My British title fight against Chicane, underdog, the motivation was there.
That was a 50-50.
Nah, not in the bookies. 9-1 for a knockout for me to knock him out.
Wow.
5-1 for me to just win. 4-1 for me just to win. I was a massive underdog in the bookies. Yeah. So originally when the fight was spoke about, it was supposed to be a 50-50. Then by the time the fight was made, he was a massive favorite. So I went in there as the underdog. Yet again, people saying he's tall, he's awkward, he's this, he's that, he's going to be hard. Other time I was in the bookies, another massive odds against me was against Jake Paul.
Yeah,
I was another fight that in the bookies he was tipped to win again. My first Southern Era title fight, I was a massive underdog in the bookies again. All three of them pulled the upset off. So sometimes I thrive on being the underdog. More importantly, since I moved up to light heavyweight after Buglioni fight, I felt like I had more of a point to prove. So when I was put into these fights, I kind of wanted to deliver, which I did.
And one I do want to give you a lot of credit for is the Frank Buglioni fight, because you came in at short notice. And although you didn't get the victory, I think it would have been so important for you to get that experience against a more experienced fighter like you will be this weekend, although you've got more fights than him. What advice would you give to people when going into that similar situation you were? Because so many fighters are focused on keeping their row these days, but clearly it doesn't matter. You're going into your 19th fight, fighting for a world title, and it hasn't affected you at all. Do you think more people need to...
I was 10-0 before Buglioni, so people would be like, why would you risk your O? I took it on 5 days' notice. I was still a super middleweight at the time. I'm fighting a guy 23 fights, 15 KOs at the weight above without a training camp, and I've never even done a 12-rounder. So I'd done that without even training for it. I trained 2 days because I was in Ireland. I flew back on the Sunday night, trained Monday, Tuesday, 2 4-rounders, and went in there to fight on the Saturday night. And it's just belief in yourself and believing that you can do anything, really. And I've always wanted to do something to beat the odds, really. Like, a win that people will be like, oh, I wasn't expecting that, Sometimes you can put your hat higher than you can reach it. I should have probably had my first 12 rounder and had a training camp for it. But it showed me that I could do 12 rounds without even a training camp when I've never done 12 rounds. So it kind of gave me the confidence now moving forward what my abilities are.
What would you say to people that are focused on keeping their row then? Because it clearly hasn't affected you. No one talks about the fact that it's actually affected your career in a negative light. What would you say to the people who are really focused on keeping that?
Well, I believe that obviously there's two ways about it. Like, obviously some people just think, oh, well, he just got into a high profile fight, done well, and lost his O, but look where his career's gone. But I wouldn't advise people just to go and do that. See, the odds obviously were stacked against me. I went in there and I performed above expectations. Everyone expected me. I remember he just boxed Jose Burton, knocked him out at light heavyweight. So I think I was expected to be stopped, hurt, or put down at some point. I obviously exceeded expectations, but I wouldn't expect someone to go into a fight looking to lose to raise their profile. What I would say is, if you really believe in your ability and you believe that you can go and get the win, don't be scared to take risks. So take them risks for these 50-50 fights, and roll the dice, because the higher the risk, the higher the reward. Nothing great comes from mediocre decisions.
Would you say this fight against Dimitri Bivol on May the 1st is a risk?
Yeah, it's a risk. Of course it's a risk. He's the world champion. So he's very seasoned. He won a lot in the amateurs. We know he's a great fighter. Like, there's no two ways about that. He's a very good fighter. As I said, I believe in myself, and I believe I can go and deliver the goods, or I wouldn't took the fight. To be fair, people feel like I actually asked for the fight, and then Eddie fortunately delivered it for us. So yeah, like, it's a fight that I wanted, a big fight. You see, because if you look in my career, when I have 6-rounders, 8-rounders against guys I'm meant to beat, I have flat performances. There has to be a fight that gets me up for it, gets me excited, and gets me up in the mornings training hard. And I just thought there ain't a bigger name than Dimitri Bivol in the WBA. What's going to get me more excited?
Now, there's so much talent at light heavyweight. You've obviously got Artur Beterbiev, who's probably the best. I think that's hard to argue against. Who would you put in the top 3 with Beterbiev? You can obviously include yourself. You've got a great talent in Britain as well. Who would you rank in the top 3? It doesn't have to be Beterbiev. I assume it would be.
I would definitely put Beterbiev up there with Bivol, but I'm not really here to name lists and orders. All I focus on the light heavyweight right now is myself beating Bivol, and then ask me that rankings after May the 1st.
Would you potentially look to fight Beterbiev straight away, or is that a fight that you'd like to have down the line?
One step at a time. You know, I'm not shy away to fight anyone, but one step at a time. My focus is just mainly Bivol right now. That's it. Eat, sleep, dream. Just think of Bivol right now. That's it. All the other guys, after that, they can talk to me and we can sit down at the table. But right now, I can't focus on anybody else. That they're irrelevant. If I watch him and he looks good, he looks bad, doesn't change my fight for May the 1st. That's my focus.
So when you say eat, sleep, dream, Bivol, is that studying his fights, or do you leave that down to your coaches? Are you someone that, you know, watches previous fights, learns techniques?
I've watched him. Obviously, I leave it down to my team, but I've watched him. They've probably watched him. You know, I'm not shy to say I've had a look at him. I know he's had a look at me. At this level, you'd be silly not to. You need to know what you're getting in the ring with, and you need to prepare properly, and it's all part and parcel of the game. So yeah, I've looked at him, I've prepared for him, and I'm ready to go.
If you were Bivol then, if you were in his shoes, do you think this is a good fight for him, or do you think he understands how much trouble you could cause him?
I think he's not silly enough to think that it's an easy fight for him. He's obviously not, he's not silly, he's watched me. And stylistically, I bring things that will give him trouble.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about that, no question about that. He's not stupid. This is why he's at the level he's at. He's not deluded. I've heard what he's mentioned about me. I've heard what he said, and I see he's taking the fight seriously, and he understands my assets, etc. And he's going to prepare for it. I expect him as a world champion to do that.
So in the next couple of weeks, there's going to be some big news coming out regarding the future of Matchroom, whether they stay with Sky, whether they go to DAZN, or possibly something else. We're not too sure yet. How do you think it would put your career in better stead, or maybe it wouldn't? What are your thoughts be if Matchroom were to leave Sky and go to DAZN? You think that would help your career?
To be honest, I don't think about things that I can't control. So I don't know whether they're leaving, whether they're not leaving. And I don't know the impact of what happens. I think it will just all be an assumption. So I try to not overthink these sort of things. As I said, I've obviously been in training camp while this has been going on. Like, I like Sky, I like DAZN, I like them all. Like, I've boxed in DAZN, I've boxed in Sky, and they're all part of, to me, they're all part of one team at the moment. So it's just like, now he's probably hit a fork in the road. He's got to choose one or the other. He's been on a journey of both, and I'm sure Eddie knows what he's doing. I know he'll probably make the right decision or go whichever way he thinks is best or whatever for himself or whatever.
And just zooming out from a fan's perspective, do you feel like it becomes harder to become a boxing fan or a casual fan? Because a casual fan is where a lot of the boxing audience is. For example, the pay-per-view fight that you'll be card that you'll be fighting on is brought together by Sky Sports. Whereas when they fight on the likes of DAZN, it might be harder for those people who flick onto Sky after watching the football, the casual fans. It might be harder for them to then watch the boxing. Do you think that could be detrimental?
Possibly. I think there's pros and cons, I think, for both. You know, Sky is something that everyone's going to be subscribed to because of the football, etc. DAZN people is a monthly subscription for people who watch UFCs or boxing or other sporting members. So you'll have people sign up to that who might not sign up to that, and vice versa. So I think there's pros and cons of it all. Personally, I don't watch football in and out week in and week out. So like it wouldn't affect someone like myself. So it all just depends on the individual, you know, like some people might subscribe to another channel, BT or something else. And do you get what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I don't necessarily think, I think what it is the same way, like no one's got a monthly subscription for Sky Sports Box Office, have they? But if they want to watch the fight, you pay your £20. So no matter what channel it's on, if you're interested in that show, you're going to pay for it.
Yeah. I meant more of sort of from a wider audience, because people like me and you, we watch boxing every week and we're probably going to pay. But for the people who are in the casual audience and might necessarily know about the fight until the day it's happening, that's sort of the angle I was coming from. But at the same time, that's completely right. They may just pay individually as well, and it's going to be cheaper on DAZN as well. So there's definitely a lot of pros.
Yeah, what do you mean? Like, obviously, like if you're watching football, you'll start seeing the boxing advertisement popping up between the games and things like that.
I'm talking the wider audience, the people who aren't watching boxing every week and they flick over after, like, I don't know, Liverpool are playing or something like that. You know what I mean? So there's definitely a lot of demographics that Sky have that DAZN won't. But it's a very interesting convo to have. I want to move on to the pay-per-view card you'll be fighting on. There's many big fights. Of course, you're on the card. Katie Taylor's on the card. Derek Chisora's headlining. What do you think about the card as a whole? Do you think it's pay-per-view worthy? Because I do actually think it is, but a lot of people have been saying Derek Chisora shouldn't be headlining anymore, and it's not worthy of paying £20.
Look, you're getting how much free world title fights? Yeah, you know, I'm a good fighter. Bivol's a good fighter. People would want to see a fight like that regardless. You'd want to watch Katie Taylor and Natasha Jonas on their own separate show. You'd want to watch probably Eubanks against Morrison on that own separate show. You'd want to watch all of the fights, like them 4 fights I mentioned, are all headline fights. Yeah. So how could you get all that on one card and it not be pay-per-view? Then you might as well just get it all split up and let us all headline a show each on a Saturday night, fight night. And then what, you're going to be happy then? But if you ain't got Sky, you're going to have to pay a weekly pass or a monthly pass every week for the next 4 or 5 weeks. So you just get all on one night, monster card.
Exactly. And it's not like the main event's going to be boring anyway. Derek Chisora's never in a dull fight. And going back to the casual audience, a lot of people know who he is. So people are going to be more inclined to want to buy that fight. So I think it is pay-per-view worthy, in my opinion. One more thing I do want to...
The pay-per-view card. It's just like people thinking about Derek Chisora as a person, but we know he does numbers. You know that people are going to buy him for Derek Chisora, and this is why he's headlining the show. Yes, the other fights of ours are world title fights, but he's not in a world title fight, but he is got that profile and he does numbers. So it's pay-per-view.
Yeah, definitely. Lastly, I just want to sort of close it off by saying, you know, we spoke since your last fight, but how difficult was it fighting without a crowd? Did it affect you? I know your 2 sisters were there, I believe. They were both very loud, but without like hundreds of people there in attendance supporting you on, how different was it?
It was all right. I just zoned in and focused on the job. You know, every day I'm in the gym and I'm sparring. I don't have a crowd. And it's just, just got to work. I didn't have to play into the crowd. You know, sometimes you'll be boxing, you'll be thinking about, I need to engage more, the crowd's not entertained or whatever. With that, I literally got in there, went and done my job and went home. So it was actually easier to just focus on the job at hand, really.
Fantastic. Really appreciate your time. Can't wait for the fight and the stacked card that we've just mentioned. I'll definitely be catching up with you soon.
Definitely. I'm a new.